It's been 6 years. 6 years since One Punch Man's Monster Association arc first began. And during those 6 years, Murata has managed to drop bangers on top of bangers. But it's here now, the moment we all wanted. SAITAMA vs Garou. Chapter 162 establishes the scene with the rescue helicopter, as Garou and Metal Bat saved them from dying. Garou ended up throwing the helicopter 500 meters away from where the battle was taking place. And once again, the story is servicing this subplot to exemplify what it means to be a hero through Garou's actions. Tareo was saved once again, as Garou keeps prioritizing his innocent life over selfish concerns. However, A-class hero Max Lightning notices that Sage Centipede and Evil Ocean Water are nowhere to be seen. But Tareo points out that it was his uncle who took those monsters down. His uncle being Garou, of course, which highlights the fact that the boy has grown fond of his character. Tareo frames Garou as a great hero who protected him. But wait a second, Mugen Rider just had to ruin the moment by asking if it was a middle-aged man with a tank top, referring to Tank Top Master? What?
That's quite big.
This is when a sudden earthquake and a mysterious aura engulfs the entire area. We all know what that is. It's freaking Garou and Saitama exchanging blows. Like, pa, boom, boom, explosions, boom, bam, you know, tish-tash, talk. I'm a 29-year-old man, by the way, but that's just manga for you. It brings the child out of all of us. I'm kidding. So anyway, they are fighting at such a high speed that other heroes can't even tell who they are. They just hear the impact and see the sparks caused by their fists clashing. As they are fighting at such a high altitude, Garou kicks Saitama with so much force that when Saitama lands, it creates cracks all over the city. Yes, an entire city. But, you know, Saitama is just brushing the dust off his clothes because nothing matters. However, Garou is not done yet. He rushes towards Saitama to land a God Slayer fist and hits Saitama directly on his bald egghead. This causes a tremendous amount of energy to disperse as the two of them have a clash of power. But this egg is too hard to crack. In fact, this egg is so hard, Saitama managed to shatter Garou's entire arm by simply doing a little jump. Saitama, as calm as always, asks him, "What's the problem? Why are you picking fights out of nowhere?" But Garou doesn't care what Saitama has to say because his fists are rated E for everyone, which is when it's revealed that Garou has the ability to regenerate missing parts of his body, which is pretty handy. Garou tries to punch Saitama and it all means nothing in the end. But just like my parents, as they always say, "Bitch, are you interrupting me while I'm talking?" And he hits him with a punch so powerful that it sends Garou flying all the way to where Tareo and the other A-class heroes are located. And just as I mentioned earlier, we know this to be 500 meters away. So let's just think about that for a moment. A normal non-serious punch where Saitama is not even trying to kill Garou here has moved an almost god-level threat opponent 500 meters through a crater. This kind of shows how overpowered Saitama is, and obviously due to it, he's created a new insane normality in his brain. Statements like him thinking lava is water, a giant beast is a dog, where he was actually a dragon level threat, and then there's Garou, who he's calling a chicken or cosplaying as a monster only. This only showcases how Saitama's perspective has been completely molded by the world being too weak in front of him. This is why Saitama is always bored. The point is, Saitama makes everyone look weak because this same Garou without his new transformations can already defeat most of the S-class heroes put together, as he already did this in the webcomic version of events in chapter 82. Which brings up my next point, the major changes that have occurred from the webcomic and manga, because the context of the story has changed. In webcomic chapter 82, Garou showcased his power above the heroes by destroying destroying most of the S-Class with ease. He was seen as this menacing, huge threat that could pose a challenge to the world and could actually match his ideology of becoming the ultimate monster via his supremacy. So when Saitama eventually defeated Garou, this tied in perfectly with the idea that the heroes had an excuse to play down his feat of actually defeating him, as they had, in their perspective, weakened him, you know, in quotations. This is based on their point of view, which again plays into the storyline that Garou's character built. Heroes are self-centered, prideful, and egotistical, who look out for themselves rather than society. Now, with the manga, Tareo plays a much bigger role, and most of the heroes are not even witnessing the fight yet, but eventually they will have to, because the story would need an excuse not to put Saitama instantly as an S rank after this event. Another possibility is the fact that God is witnessing this fight. Those of you that have the notification bell on for our channel, you would know the secret that was revealed in the last chapter. This character named God has a huge connection with Blast and the ancient cubes he is collecting. Blast was not present in this fight during the webcomic at all, but in the manga, he has talked to Tatsumaki and saved her from God's temptation of power. Clearly, Murata is changing the story to represent this God in a more meaningful way that could continue the arc after Saitama vs Garou concludes. For example, after God witnesses Saitama's superior strength compared to anyone else on Earth, the plot will definitely mention his intentions and why Blast has appeared in the manga in front of the other heroes after such a long time, as the Hero Association stated that Blast only appears when there's a serious threat to humanity. These changes from the webcomic to manga is what everyone is loving about the series right now. Anyway, back to chapter 162, Tareo notices Garou and starts running towards him. However, not only was Garou's arm destroyed, his pride was too. He is not even paying attention to anything else other than Saitama. Saitama lives rent-free inside Garou's brain. This causes Garou to lose his mind due to Saitama's power, screaming that he will never become the ultimate evil. He's succumbed to rage so much that he doesn't even realize Tareo is behind him, as the boy looks at Garou really terrified. The heroes immediately see Garou as a monster, juxtaposed by Saitama's reaction previously, not seeing him as one, but instead treating Garou based on his actions. This highlights the corruption of the Hero Association even further, which gives more substance to Garou's whole ideology of destroying the association due to its discriminatory nature towards appearances and the hero's selfishness. The heroes pull Tareo away as Garou is confused as his body begins to mutate even further due to his pure rage. Garou's body transformations are the physical symbolism of his inner conflict. The more conflicted he is, the more monstrous his form appears. Garou realizes he has the upper hand as the heroes are spread thin, they're having to fight and evacuate the people all at once. Tareo is one of these people being evacuated on the boat, but slips out to go to Garou, which, you know, somehow no hero noticed, and these guys suck once again. How do you not notice that a little kid escaped the boat?
You're honestly an idiot. I don't know what's wrong with you.
Anywho, Tareo makes his way to Garou as Garou states, "Hey, you're alive." This statement makes Tareo realise that this is truly him, as he stated the same words before when he saved him from the heroes. Back then, Tareo ran away at the sight of Garou, but this time, with tears in his eyes and a smile, he says to himself that he will not run away. He even calls Garou a hero despite his monstrous appearance. Tareo and Saitama have a lot of similarities, you see. Tareo does not see him as a monster and also seems to believe that he is faking, much like Saitama. An important note is that Tareo does not have such a huge role in the webcomic. Therefore, this change to the manga is pretty huge. It's especially highlighted in this fight. In the webcomic, it's mainly Saitama just beating Garou up, and thus he is the main reason for Garou's shift. Well, I mean, this will still likely happen in the manga, but we'll speak on that later. Tareo adds another piece of emotional depth to Garou's character. This fight will be different from the webcomic. Saitama will likely be the same because, well, I mean, he's Saitama, but Tareo just being there changes a lot of things. In the webcomic, he's pretty hidden away. He can see the fight, but he isn't much of a focal point. showing that the manga wants to build his character even more and make Garou's change more realistic by having a character pulling him constantly from the dark into the light. After calling him a hero, Garou tells Tareo to look at him and that he's transformed into a true monster, but Tareo cuts him off, bringing up the point that we always make. This is the 4th time he's gone out of his way now to save Tareo. No matter what Garou says, in Tareo's eyes, he will always be the greatest hero despite whatever form he takes. Then he repeats Saitama's point. Stop pretending to be a monster. The difference being that when Saitama brings it up, he goes about it in a very nonchalantly way, whereas Tareo says it emotionally and from the heart with tears in his eyes. This hits Garou deeper as Garou sees himself reflected in Tareo, as he too was once a snot-nosed kid that was bullied by the people around him. Garou, however, made it his responsibility to bring about a change by training hard in dojos. He now serves as an inspiration for Tareo because of their similar childhoods. In fact, as he goes on to state later in the chapter, he wants to put an end to the world that made them cry. It's actually a rather heroic mentality for Garou to have, considering his monstrous outlook on it all. Moving on though, Tareo continues to say that he doesn't want to see Garou hated. This compassion touches even Garou. He becomes even more conflicted, telling Tareo to stop because he can finally show him the moment the monster wins, as Garou always wanted, shown in his flashback. Tareo asking Garou to stop being a monster is in contrast to the webcomic, where Saitama is the person convincing Garou and Tareo only shows up at the end of the battle. However, in this version, Saitama will be the physical force behind Tareo's words. Saitama then butts in, saying that you're gonna make the old man cry, referring to Silverfang, who as we know is trying so hard to save Garou. Saitama then goes on to list Garou's actions, you know, him hunting heroes, wrecking dojos, and now he's pretending to be a monster and making kids cry, ultimately telling him to grow up. Now this may seem like a simple insult to annoy Garou, but there's actually a little bit more to it. Saitama sees through Garou easily, as they are both pretty similar. After all, Garou is simply just playing pretend monster as a hobby, just like how Saitama is a hero for fun, except Garou doesn't quite fully understand that yet. He then asks if Garou is upset that he said he wasn't a monster and labels his brand new transformation as cosplay. Garou ignores Saitama as he tells Tareo to watch, as he will destroy his outlook on life and how truly weak heroes actually are, declaring that there will be nobody left to save or kill you, as Garou, absolute evil, will rule. Now what Garou is trying to say here is not that he wants to kill everyone or any of the typical rule the world shenanigans, but instead he is trying to make it so that there's no reason that anyone would want to kill Tareo or need to save him, as Garou will become the enemy of all, causing the rest of the world to unite together as one. That is why in chapter 161 he states that this is something only he can do. You see, Garou doesn't actually want to be a monster, but feels it's necessary to bring about a change in the world and now wants to show Tareo how broken this world is. This emotional depth and interaction with Tareo is then stopped by Saitama making fun of him again, teasing Garou to hit him with a "Huh? Well, what are you gonna do?" kind of look in his face, and even going as far enough to call him a chicken. In fact, he finally annoys Garou enough for him to lash out and finally punch him with full power in his brand new monster transformation, which does absolutely nothing. I mean, come on, this is what we all expected. Let's be honest, this is what happens in the webcomic also. No matter what monstrous form Garou adopts, Saitama is always fine. I mean, look, he doesn't even have a scratch on his little bald head. Anyway, Saitama then reassures Tareo that he'll be fine and not to worry. This puts him in a good light to Garou, as no matter how much of a tsundere he tries to be, we all know that deep down he truly cares for Tareo. However, Garou tries another powerful kick and, well, yeah, Saitama just bitch slaps him away. Saitama then asks Tareo, "You want me to stop him, not kill him, right?" Of course, Tareo nods heavily to Saitama's suggestion, to which Saitama says, "Leave it to me." It's pretty likely that as this fight continues, that Garou will realise his inferiority complex and the fact that his reasoning for becoming a monster was simply just the easy way to try and be the hero. After all, Saitama's mere existence makes Garou's dream impossible, as he can never defeat Saitama no matter what. Anyway, as this arc reaches its climax, it will help both Garou and Saitama realise the truth behind their silly little hobbies. Now, I recommend that you check out this video on your screen right now, because trust me, it's pretty good.